Welcome back to Half the Battle. I'm your host, as always, Daniel Levy, and today we're going to talk about UFC Vegas, Josh Emmett versus Kevin Vallejos. And my friends, it's going down this Saturday night live at the Apex in Las Vegas, Nevada. We got the man with the most knockouts in UFC featherweight history, putting his top 15 spot on the line against the young gun, Kevin Vallejos, in what's sure to be a passing of the torch type fight. So my friends, without further ado, smash the like button, hit the subscribe, and let's get down to business. Because in this main event, we got Josh Emmett. He's 19-6, taking on Kevin Vallejos, who's 17-1. Currently, they got it Vallejos minus 650. The comeback on Emmett is plus 475. So here's where things get interesting, my friends. Josh Emmett is 41 years old, taking on Vallejos, who's 24. That means there's a 17-year age gap, my friends. Vallejos an inch taller, but it's Emmett that has a 2-inch reach advantage at 70 inches of reach. So we already dealt with this scenario last week with Raul Rosas Jr. and Rob Font. I bet on Raul Rosas straight, and the age gap definitely had something to do with it. Unfortunately, in this spot, Vallejos is not a minus 225 favorite like Rosas was. He's minus 650. So we're not going to be able to play him straight. And they usually say if you're not going to play it straight, then why would you parlay it? And I get that line of thinking, but with this age gap, I don't mind a Vallejos parlay leg in this spot. I know a lot of people are going to make the argument for Emmett being live, and in normal circumstances, I'd agree, but he's 41 years old, my friends. And I feel like not only is he on a massive decline, but that Yusuf Zalal fight was probably the best example you can give that Emmett is on his way out for sure. I mean, when have you ever seen Emmett get ran through like that? Never. I mean, he's gotten caught in fights before, like the Jeremy Stevens fight, but even in that fight, he had an early knockdown. It was back and forth. It wasn't like Jeremy Stevens just went out there and just blew him out the water, whereas Yusuf Zalal treated Emmett like he did not belong in the top 10 anymore. And I truly believe that's the case. Listen, Emmett is the hardest hitter in featherweight history, former college wrestler. He's the man, but dude, you're 41 years old fighting at featherweight. Like, what else is there to say? And when you're talking about Kevin Vallejos, you're talking about a young gun. And one thing I really like about him, normally being that young is kind of a red flag, but look at this kid's physique for his age, man. I mean, like, he's already developing into that frame. It's not like one of these guys where he's going to have to grow into that man body. No, this guy already looks like a man, So I like the way he's developing. And he went out there against Giga Chikadze, and he straight up knocked him out. He took the ass whooping up front. Oh, yeah, that's what you got. That's your Giga kick. Okay, now it's my turn to return the favor. And boy, did he do so. He goes out there, he knocks Giga out, which, it's one thing to beat Giga, but to knock him out, hey, I take note of that. Do not be surprised if he comes out here and he knocks Josh Emmett out. Listen, I know it sounds like I'm being dismissive of Emmett, like I'm counting him out. Guess what? You're right. I am counting him out. I am being dismissive. My friends, he's 41 years old. The minus 650 price tag tells you everything you need to know about this matchup. It would be a huge upset, not just numerically, but in my eyes too, if Emmett won this fight. And I don't predict he's going to do so. I think that Kevin Vallejos is going to, get another well-known established vet on his resume and move on to bigger, better things. The youth is going to be the difference here. Give me Kevin Vallejos to not just beat Josh Emmett, but to run through him. Next up in the strawweight division, we got a matchup between Amanda Lemos. She's 15-5-1, taking on Gillian Robertson, who's 16-8. Currently, they got at Gillian Robertson minus 195. The comeback on Amanda Lemos is plus 170. So Lemos, 8 years older at 38. Gillian, an inch taller at 5'5", and it's Lemos that's going to have a 2-inch reach advantage at 65 inches of reach. So these two were supposed to fight 2 months back. I actually already broke this fight down, and my pick and my breakdown hasn't changed at all. So this is what I said last time. Kind of binary, as you all know. I mean, don't get me wrong. Lemos has submitted some people before, but I think Lemos going to look to keep the standing where, she does have a lot of power for this division. And Robertson has the most submissions in UFC women's MMA history and is catching up for the most wins in UFC women's MMA history. So very, very interesting fight. Couple fun facts. Robertson has taken down her last 10 opponents in a row. And Lemos has been taken down by 6 of her last 7 opponents in a row. And the one that didn't take her down was Marina Rodriguez, which, I mean, would you expect Marina Rodriguez to take anybody down? You understand what I'm saying? So basically, one girl lands a lot of takedowns, one girl gets taken down a lot. But then there's the big physicality gap. Although Lemos is 38, 39, she's someone that dropped from 35s back in the day. So here to be at 115, she's a specimen, man. She hits hard. She intimidates these girls. And even at her ripe age, man, she's fighting to the bitter end. You know what I mean? But with Robertson, I truly feel like she's turned a corner. I remember back when she was on The Ultimate Fighter, Eddie Alvarez always used to say that, if Robertson can't get her takedown, she quits. And while that's been the case in some UFC fights, I really feel like she's starting to put it together. I really feel like she's going on a run right now. And could you imagine her versus Mackenzie Dern for the belt? Just the caliber on the mat there, that'd be quite the fight. So yeah, there's some concerns obviously with Lemos stuffing takedowns and putting the damage on Robertson, but I do think that Robertson's going to be able to get this down to the mat, and whether it's a submission, whether it's a ground and pound TKO, or whether it's Lemos hanging tough and Robertson grinding out the decision, I'm gonna go with Robertson. Yeah, so I'm still going Gillian Robertson to win this fight via ground dominance. Next up in the light heavyweight division, we got a matchup between Oumar Sy, he's 12-1, taking on Ion Cutelaba, who's 19-11-1. Currently, they got it Oumar Sy minus 205. The comeback on Ion Cutelaba is plus 175. So Oumar is 30, Ion is 32. Oumar, 3 inches taller at 6'4", and he's got a significant 8-inch reach advantage at 83 inches of reach. So interesting fight. They're testing Oumar Sy. Listen, he's a decent prospect in the sense that he's got so many physical tools. The guy's massive for the weight class. He's powerful. He's dynamic. It's just a matter of the actual technical skills catching up with the freak physical attributes. Once that happens, look out. The sky could be the limit. But he's not exempt from taking some roadblocks along the way, too. I mean, I was in attendance when he dropped the ball as a massive favorite in Atlanta, Georgia, against Alonzo Menefield. Now, on the other side with Ion Cutelaba, I'd say despite coming off a loss against Modestas Bukauskas, which, by the way, I thought he won that fight, I'd say Ion's actually in his career best form. Listen, he's still a super inconsistent guy. I don't think he's that trustworthy, but you have to respect the experience, the seasoning, and the dues paid. That's definitely there. The guy's ultra aggressive, and if you're not quite ready to fight with a guy like Ion Cutelaba, if you're not quite on the level, he's not just going to beat you. He's going to go out there and he's going to finish you. But the thing about it is this matchup kind of reminds me of a fight that Ion had against Kennedy and Zechku. Oumar Sy, kind of similar body type. And I think that Oumar Sy can weather this early storm and then finish Ion Cutelaba in the second or third round, possibly late into the first. So I'm actually going to pick Oumar Sy to come out here, finish this fight. And I'm curious if there's value here because this is the lowest price tag that Oumar Sy's been in his entire UFC career. Usually he's like minus 600. Now he's only minus 200. So I'm curious if there's value there. Oumar Sy to win inside the distance. Next up in the featherweight division, we got a matchup between Andre Fili, he's 25-12, taking on Jose Delgado, who's 10-2. Currently, they got it Jose Delgado minus 325. The comeback on Andre Fili is plus 275. So Fili is 35. He's getting up there. Delgado 27. Both men 5'11. Both men have a 74-inch reach. So Fili is no longer the tall, long guy in this matchup. Now he's got someone who has the exact same height, the exact same reach, but is 8 years younger than him. And this kid, Jose Delgado, is an absolute killer. He's one of my favorite prospects in the featherweight division. And the reason is this. I mean, look at these highlights. This is a guy that goes out there and puts on the exact kind of fights that the fans want to see. He's ultra aggressive. He gets right in your face, and he's going out there with one thing on his mind, and that's to take out his opponent in devastating, violent, and brutal fashion. That's why we enjoy watching Jose Delgado fight. Now, recently, he's coming off a loss against Nathaniel Wood. But I got to say, for a first UFC L, I thought he performed great in that fight. And not only that, one can make the argument that he won that fight, but regardless of if you think he won or he didn't win, that was a great learning experience for a guy like Delgado to truly mature, improve, evolve, and take things to that next level. Now that he's paid those dues, I think he's ready for this veteran test in Andre Fili. You got to give Andre Fili so much credit because he's been in the UFC a long time. You absolutely have to be on a certain level to not just beat a guy like Andre Fili, but to even compete with him. But that being said, not only do I think that Jose Delgado is on the level to compete with a guy like Andre Fili, I think he's good enough to come out here and finish Andre Fili. One thing about Fili is he's a well-rounded guy. He's been in the game a long time. And like I said, you do have to be on a certain level to beat him. But I think that Delgado's power, his usage of his range, his ultra aggressiveness, and the fact that he's going to walk forward, he's not going to give Andre Fili too much respect. He's not going to be mesmerized by the fact that, hey, I grew up watching this guy. Let's high five and hug in the middle of the octagon. There's going to be none of that. Jose Delgado does not care who you are, where you're from, what your association is. He's going to go out there and he's going to try to knock your head off. And I think that's exactly what's going to happen Saturday night at the Apex. I think Jose Delgado is going to come out here and knock out Andre Fili in the first round. Next up in the featherweight division, we got the UFC debut of Marwan Rahiki, 7-0, taking on Harry Hardwick, who's 13-4-1. Currently, they got it Marwan Rahiki minus 270. The comeback on Hardwick is plus 230. So Hardwick, 8 years older at 31, both men 5'8". Marwan Rahiki has a 1-inch reach advantage at 72 inches of reach. I'm super pumped for this because Marwan Rahiki was absolutely one of my favorite prospects from his season of Contender Series. And that fight he had against that dude from Africa, oh my God, he had to overcome some serious adversity. A different ref might have called that fight and called it a knockout loss for Rahiki. But I like the fact that the ref let Rahiki try to get himself back into the fight. And boy, did he do so. And then the finishing combo was so nasty. I mean, those standing elbows, I like everything about this guy. And now that I know he can overcome adversity, to me, that just answers more questions, because when you take a kid like Rahiki and you give him the mental notes of what happened in that Contender Series fight, hey, you go back to the gym, you work on these things, you come back a better version of yourself. The sky's the limit for this guy. I mean, let's take a look at him real quick, because when you're talking about Rahiki, I like pretty much everything about this guy. He's really proficient from both stances. He's got some nasty combos. He's got that confidence, that swag, that aura. I mean, he looks to me like a promising prospect. You got to build him up the right way, of course. You don't just rush a guy like this, but I think giving him Harry Hardwick in his debut is exactly what I'm talking about. That is developing him the right way. That is letting him get his feet wet, because he has everything you want in a young prospect that's had less than 10 pro fights. He's got the athleticism. He's got the ultra aggressiveness in his striking style. He's, had to face some adversity on his regional scene that he's overcome very nicely. Look at that hip bump sweep, man. I mean, I don't even need this guy to come take my fundamentals class hitting moves like that. He already knows them. And then his finishing combos are so nasty. And on Contender Series, the adversity he overcame, like I already mentioned, I think this guy's ready right now. On the other side with Hardwick, the guy has a reputation for, on his UK regional scene, he'd take that ass whooping up front, but if he's still there, he'd kind of pace guys late into fights, and that's all well and good. But to have that style at the UFC level, I think that you have to have a certain level of athleticism, a certain level of physicality, and just a certain level of skill. And I'm not convinced that Hardwick possesses that. I'm not convinced that Hardwick wins a single UFC fight. And I think here against Rahiki, he's not going to be able to take that ass whooping up front. I think he's just going to take the ass whooping until he either gets finished or he gets 30-27. So I do not foresee a comeback finish from George Hardwick. I see Marwan Rahiki dominating Hardwick from start to finish. And I'm going to predict he doesn't even have to overcome any early adversity. I'm going to predict he just comes out here, runs through him, makes it easy, and makes the kind of statement where we're like, hey, who's that guy that just made his debut? Is that someone we got to keep an eye out for? Because that could have been a candidate for debut of the year. I think that, Hardwick made that kid Cowie Fernandez, look like the second coming of Jose Aldo. And let me tell you something. Cowie Fernandez is skilled, but I can promise you he's not the second coming of Jose Aldo. I think that Hardwick's going to make Rahiki look like a featherweight Anderson Silva on Saturday night inside the Apex. I see Rahiki coming out here and styling on Hardwick. I want to let y'all know about the sharpest and most well-rounded sports betting Discord I've ever been a part of. I'm talking about Narco Cops Premium Discord. My friends, these guys won over 170 units in 2025 across all sports. Obviously, they specialize in UFC, but these guys are out here crushing in boxing, in bare knuckle, NFL, college football, college basketball, NHL, soccer, golf, tennis, MLB, But of course, the focus is combat sports. They have live betting on every single UFC card, and it's a community feel like no other. One thing I really like about Narco Cop's Discord is that there's zero egos involved. Narco Cop takes care of the UFC and the bare knuckle, but he's got individual handicappers for boxing, for hockey, and soccer who are absolute heavy hitters. I mean, his boxing handicapper is ridiculous. And I got to tell y'all, bare knuckle boxing was a huge money winner in 2025. So my friends, I want to hook y'all up with 50% off your first month on Narco Cop's premium Discord. All you got to do is click the link in the description and enjoy 50% off the sharpest and most well-rounded sports betting Discord in the game today. Next up in the heavyweight division, we got a matchup between Vitor Petrino. He's 13-2, taking on Steven Asplund, who's 7-1. Currently, they got a Vitor Petrino minus 215. The comeback on Steven Asplund is plus 185. Petrino a year older at 28. Asplund 3 inches taller at 6'5" and has a half inch of reach at 78 inches of reach. Interesting fight because Steven Asplund, he's kind of one of these guys that I didn't take too seriously, but now I'm taking him a little bit more seriously because you see the physique and you might think certain things like, you know, how can a fat tub of lard make it to the UFC? But actually, he's lost a shit ton of weight compared to what he used to weigh at. And he's quite an interesting story because if you just judge a book by its cover, you're not going to get the whole story. This guy pushes a ridiculous pace. And if you want to get into a volume boxing match with Steven Asplund, I mean, he's going to put those output numbers on you and gas you out, eventually start going to the body, start going upstairs, and then get you out of there. So he's a lot better than I initially anticipated and thought. And I got to give him a lot of respect for that. Now with Vitor Petrino, I think this guy's a freak in nature, and I'm super glad he's not killing himself to make 205 anymore. Now he's at the right weight class at heavyweight. This guy's coming in 250, 255 pounds. I mean, he might have been a heavyweight this whole time, you know, and now he gets to breathe. He doesn't have to sit in the sauna and do all these crazy things to make 205. So I'm happy for him. Now he's starting to fill out that frame, starting to get more comfortable in the weight class. Now I heard a rumor that Petrino has a hurt hand. So while I do think that his power could be, you know, something for him on the feet here, his best path to victory here is getting this down to the mat. That dude, Denzel Freeman, y'all remember Denzel, the dude that Josh Hokett just ran through? That guy not just took down Steven Asplund at will, but took him down and choked him out. I think that a Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu black belt like Vitor Petrino can do similar things, take this fight to the ground, pass position, and get that ground and pound going, eventually secure a dominant spot and take a neck home with you. There are concerns if the fight gets extended on the feet because Asplund, he doesn't look like it, but he's got great cardio and good output. Like, it's crazy. Like, you sleep on a guy like that, and then he'll go out there and put your fighter away. So definitely has my respect, but I think that Vitor Petrino has more paths to victory here, and he's got a big path on the mat. If he can get this to the mat, he's going to cover this price tag and then some. If it stays standing the whole time, he can obviously win by knockout, but that gives Asplund the only chance he has to win this fight. Asplund ain't getting no takedowns. Asplund ain't getting no submissions. If Asplund's going to win this fight, he's going to have to box up Vitor Petrino, whereas I think Vitor can catch Asplund on the feet, but if he gets it to the mat, he could look minus 1,000 in this spot. So hopefully Vitor knows what the game plan is, and if he does, I'm going to pick him to come out here and not just win this fight, but tap Steven Asplund out. Next up in the flyweight division, we got a matchup between Bruno Silva. He's 15-7-2, taking on Charles Johnson, who's 18-8. Currently, they got at Charles Johnson minus 205. The comeback on Bruno Bulldog is plus 175. Both men 35. Charles is 5 inches taller at 5'9" and has a 4-inch reach advantage at 70 inches of reach. So, I mean, Charles just got knocked out, you know, less than 2 months ago. Isn't this guy on concussion protocol? You know, he's the exact same price he was when he fought Alex Perez. And, you know, I hear people talking about how Charles Johnson is so underrated and this and that. I got to give Charles some credit. His fan base really has his back. It's quite amazing. Like, you'll see him get knocked out by the ghost of Alex Perez. Then y'all act like this guy would beat Josh Van in a rematch, which is absolutely hilarious to me. To me, the Josh Van and the Luan Kavanaugh fights were simply first UFC L time for those guys, if they ever ran it back. Not only do I think Josh Van and Luan Kavanaugh would win, but I think they'd win with ease and they'd style on Charles Johnson. Actually, both of them already did style on Charles Johnson to the point where they got carried away, they got cocky, they made rookie mistakes. something that's easily fixable if they ever ran it back. But Charles Johnson is always on Twitter crying about how, he's overlooked and he's disrespected, how he's the best 5-round fighter in the UFC and this and that. And the UFC were like, okay, here's the ghost of Alex Perez, a guy who's like 1-6 in his last 7 fights, a guy who can't make weight to save his life, a guy who gets finished every time he gets a step up in competition. Hey, Charles, go feast on the carcass, kid. Like, this is your big shot. He goes out there and he gets starched in round 1 in a way where it's like, wait, this is the guy that was talking that big game. And then after that fight, he's still talking huge, guys. It's like he's still concussed and they're letting him go back out there. I made a tweet the other day, a week before fight week, about how, if Josh Van and Lone Kavanaugh, this is exactly what I wrote. I wrote, maturing is understanding that Josh Van and Lone Kavanaugh would easily win rematches against Charles Johnson. I mean, that's my opinion. I didn't tag Charles. That's just what I think. I'm a fight predictor. I'm allowed to give my prediction on fights. And guess who commented under that? Charles Johnson's like writing paragraphs under my tweet. It's like, hey, bro, you got to fight next week. Like, why are you worrying about what people are saying on Twitter? You think a badass like Alex Poatan Pereira would go look at what people are saying on Twitter and then respond under their comments that he's not even tagged in, let alone something he is tagged in? Of course not, because champions don't concern themselves with opinions of others. They're focused on their own careers. So you got this guy who's on concussion protocol. He's going back and forth with the fans on Twitter. I'm not even responding to this guy. Like, I'm not going back and forth with a dude on concussion protocol. Are you kidding me? I'm just stating my opinion like I've been doing for 10 plus years, As far as Bruno Bulldog, right now is the perfect time to catch Charles Johnson, because Bruno Bulldog hits super hard and you got a guy on concussion protocol who was just knocked out less than 2 months ago. Hey, if this goes past round 1, then yeah, Charles Johnson, it typically takes him around to get warmed up. But there's been a recurring theme in these Charles Johnson fights. The Azat Maxim fight, Charles Johnson was getting rocked all over the place, but he overcame it and won the 2nd and 3rd rounds. The Lone Kavanaugh fight. Lone Kavanaugh was putting a clinic on Charles Johnson in that 1st round to the point where he gassed himself out from whooping on Charles Johnson, something that's easily fixable. So Johnson put it on him and finished him in the 2nd round. But what happened in the Alex Perez fight was no longer could Charles Johnson take that ass whooping up front. Now his chin is starting to go. Now his durability is starting to diminish. So now he's getting rocked. He's getting put away. He can no longer high roll, being a walking punching bag in that 1st round to, hey, you're gassed out from whooping my ass. Now I'm going to pace you in rounds 2 and 3. That's no longer the case. Alex Perez exposed that. So Bruno Bulldog has the chance to come out here and knock this guy out in the 1st round in devastating fashion. And I'm going to predict that to happen. I think Charles is coming back way too soon. I think that he's so arrogant. It's unbelievable. Have y'all seen the stuff this guy's saying? He's acting like the Alex Perez fight was some fluke and this and like, bro, I am so done with Charles Johnson. It's not even funny. I think that Bruno Bulldog is one of the heaviest hitters in the flyweight division, and he's catching Charles at an incredible time, fresh off of concussion protocol. I think Bruno Bulldog is going to come out here and knock Charles Johnson, the you-know-what, out in the very 1st round. Next up in the middleweight division, we got a matchup between Brad Tavares. He's 21-11, taking on Eryk Anders, who's 17-9. Currently, they got it. Brad Tavares -130. The comeback on Eryk Anders is +110. Both men 38. Both men 6'1". Eryk Anders, an inch taller at 75. Has a 1-inch reach advantage at 75 inches of reach. So tough fight for me to call because I look to fade both these guys who are like a fight or two away from retirement. So when you put two kind of guys that are about to retire against each other, that makes it super tough for me, because Tavares, his chin is kind of on the way out, but Anders, a guy that never had been knocked out. I mean, I saw Khalil Roundtree whoop his ass in Atlanta for 3 straight rounds, drop him all over the place, and Eryk would just keep getting back up and ask for more, whereas you saw that CLD fight, now he is getting knocked out finally. But that being said, man, oh yeah, and Jamie Pickett dropped Eryk Anders. If you check out my boy Brady from Stats Diggers, if I bring up Jamie Pickett dropping Eryk Anders, he'll make the funny sound he does. So insert Brady funny sound when talking about Jamie Pickett dropping Eryk Anders. So it's a tough one for me because I'm looking to fade both guys, and then they're putting them up against each other. I think if it goes the distance, Brad Tavares is going to win. I think that he's got a cleaner decision-winning style, big leg kicks, nice combinations, amazing takedown defense. But Eryk Anders, from time to time, he'll surprise you. He's a brute athlete. He gets right in your face. I'd say he's the heavier hitter of the two. And he's been working a lot on his jiu-jitsu. But the thing about it is, if Eryk Anders tries to take down Brad Tavares, I think you're going to see Brad Tavares balance on one leg and show off that incredible takedown defense. It's just a matter of, can Eryk Anders knock out Brad Tavares? I think there's a good chance. But I also think there's a chance Brad Tavares outpoints Eryk Anders. So it's a tough one to call. But historically speaking, I kind of favor Brad in this matchup. As long as Brad doesn't get knocked out, I think he's going to win a unanimous decision here. So give me Brad Tavares to win this fight. Next up in the welterweight division, we got a matchup between Chris Curtis. He's 32-12, taking on Myktybek Orolbai, who's 15-1. Currently, they got a Myktybek -260. The comeback on Chris Curtis is +220. So Curtis is 10 years older at 38, both men 5'10", and Curtis has a 1.5-inch reach advantage at 75.5 inches of reach. So great fight. I'm glad that Myktybek Orolbai has finally decided, hey, welterweight is your home. He's got some great wins at welterweight. He tapped out Uroš Medic. He knocked out Jack Hermanson, and I think he's going to come out here against Chris Curtis. Listen, you're catching Chris Curtis at an incredible time. And shout out to Chris Curtis because he's had a great career. I mean, this guy got turned down on Contender Series. He even retired that night, but then he went back to PFL, got some good wins under his belt, and worked his way to the UFC, and he's done his thing in the UFC, man. I mean, he's a great litmus test for where you really at in the middleweight or the welterweight division now that he's dropped down to welterweight. So kind of like Myktybek's last fight against Hermanson, you know, this is a former lightweight versus a former middleweight. And Curtis is one of those guys that for whatever reason, he's got a lot of fans backing him, kind of like Charles Johnson. Like there's no rhyme or reason for it. I don't understand it, but people love this guy. But that being said, Chris Curtis has exceptionally low volume. But one thing I got to give him credit for is his takedown defense has gotten a lot better. If you look at his takedown defense in PFL compared to now, you can tell this guy's been working on it. And when he actually decides to let his hands go, he's got some sharp hands. But the thing about this Myktybek Orolbai guy is he's one of these dudes that pushes a frenetic pace. You can put up the significant strike numbers we like. You can put up the takedown numbers we like. And now he's filling out his frame. He's entering his prime. And he's one of these guys that's going to have a really long career and just give guys such a problem. And simply put, I think his pace is going to be too much for Chris Curtis. I also think Chris Curtis is at that point now where don't be surprised if he starts getting knocked out by the younger generation. But ultimately, whether he gets knocked out or not, I'm not sure. But what I am pretty confident about is that Myktybek Orolbai is going to push double the pace of Chris Curtis and beat him everywhere the fight goes. So I took Myktybek when he was about -230. I played him to win a unit, and let's go, kid. It's time to usher out that old generation and bring in the new guard. Pass the torch, just like in the main event, but you don't have to pay -650 here. Only -260. Earlier in the week was -230. So I got Myktybek Orolbai to drown Chris Curtis with a serious, relentless pace. All right, real quick shout out. If you're not in the Home of Fight Picks Discord yet, you're leaving money on the table. They put in hundreds of hours of research on every single fight card. And in 2025, they finished up over 130 units. And they're doing something crazy for the fans of Half the Battle. Home of Fight Picks is giving away this weekend's plays for free. Just click the link in the description and join the Discord with over 6,000 members. And let's cash these parlays together this weekend. Next up in the lightweight division, we got a matchup between Bolaji Oki, he's 10-3, taking on Manoel Sosa, who's 13-1. Currently, they got it Manoel Sosa -300. The comeback on Bolaji Oki is +250. Manoel Sosa is actually the younger guy here at 28. I need to see some identification. An inch shorter at 5'9", and has a 3-inch reach disadvantage at 70 inches of reach. So Bolaji Oki is ultra talented, explosive, great athlete. It's just that as he's stepping up in competition, he's kind of having a tough time putting it all together. Don't get me wrong. He's going to give guys issues, even in losses. Like you see the Chris Duncan fight, you see the Mason Jones fight. But the thing about it is he kind of redlines and he runs out of ideas. And more experienced guys who are destined for top 15 status are going to absolutely expose that. So if you're an entry-level UFC fighter, oh my God, Oki's going to run through you in a way where, you know, you're going to realize what kind of force you were up there against. But when he's facing a guy who has top 15 potential, usually drops the ball. So the question is, do I think Manoel Sosa has top 15 potential? Absolutely, I do. Because when you're talking about Manoel Sosa, you're talking about a guy that's coming into the UFC with a ton of experience on his regional scene. I mean, this is a guy who's fought in big promotions, has fought big names. I mean, here he is against Mauricio Hufi, overcomes adversity early, and then guess what he does to Mauricio? He knocks Mauricio Hufi the you-know-what out. That is such a huge win on his resume. And he doesn't have a perfect, shiny, undefeated record. He's had to take an L or two along the way, which I'm really happy about, because he doesn't have that false sense of confidence of the undefeated fighter. He knows he's not invincible, and he can overcome adversity in fights like you saw on that Contender Series fight. He was in there with a super talented kid, and he stayed composed in the early going. And when it was his turn to return that favor, boy, did he do so. And he broke that kid. And that kid will be back. That kid is ultra talented. But Sousa broke him. The thing about it is, I don't think Oki's going to be getting takedowns. I think Oki's going to stand and bang with Sousa. And while Oki's explosive and dangerous in the early going, Sousa is dangerous and explosive, not just in the early going, but for all 3 rounds. So I think round 1 can be kind of close. But from there, I see Manoel Sousa taking over this fight. And I think he's got multiple paths to victory. I think he can stand and bang with Oki, which, don't get me wrong, that'll give Oki the one chance, to win the fight. But I'm pretty confident that Manoel Sousa can stand with this guy. But if Manoel Sousa wants to make this look easy, I think he can mix in high amplitude takedowns and dominate Bolaji Oki on the mat. So I know it's a debut, but this is different than your typical debut of a guy who's like 6-0, who hasn't seen anything yet. This guy's seen some stuff, and this guy's ready to come in here, get a couple fights under his belt like this one right here, and then go right into the top 15. I'm taking Manoel Sousa to break Bolaji Oki in this fight. Next up in the bantamweight division, we got a match between Luan Lacerda. He's 13-3, taking on Hecher Sosa, who's 14-1. Currently, they got an Hecher Sosa -210. The comeback on Luan Lacerda is +180. So Luan, 3 years older at 33. Hecher an inch taller at 5'8", but it's Luan that's going to have a 1.5 inch reach advantage at 71.5 inches of reach. Hey, shout out Hecher Sosa, because I called his fight on Contender Series so wrong, and the Spanish fans definitely let me know about that. I haven't forgotten, but I got to give Hecher Sosa a lot of credit, because the guy he beat on Contender Series, I was high on that guy. Max and Lee, I thought that guy was a serious prospect, not only skills-wise, but size for the weight class. That guy was a 6'1" bantamweight, and Hecher Sosa did not get the memo. Hecher Sosa went out there and outclassed him, and also he had overcome a personal tragedy. He lost his father, which, condolences, man, to have to go through that and then go out there and put on the performance that you did. Hey, you're a bad boy. So much respect. And then looking at Hecher Sosa's highlight reel, this guy's come a long way. One thing I had criticism about was I felt like he kind of left his head on the center line, a lack of head movement, but I think he's kind of improved that a bit, and his hands are on point, and he kind of chains together all elements of MMA really well. His striking, to his kicks, to his knees, to his takedowns. He's a well-rounded guy, and he's got a lot of pride, a lot of spirit. He loves to fight. And quite frankly, I think he's a great addition to the UFC bantamweight division. I really do. And this matchup against Luan Lacerda is going to let us know a lot, because Luan Lacerda came into the UFC and he got tested off the jump. He fought Cody Stamann in the debut. He fought Damon Blackshear. Then they finally gave Lacerda a step down in competition against Simon Oliveira, and he treated him very, very accordingly, with his job on the line, no less. I also like the fact that Luan Lacerda is staying active. No longer are you coming off that big layoff. You just fought recently. You're getting back in there. So now you can get some momentum under your belt. But I simply think that Hecher Sosa, kind of similar to Manoel Sosa, similar last names, but similar in the sense that they've paid dues outside the UFC. Hecher Sosa isn't coming in here with some shiny, undefeated record thinking he's God's gift to fighting. This guy's been through stuff. This guy's gotten caught before, come back, put together the requisite win streak needed, and shown that, hey, you're a true fighter. And I think Lacerda might have a path on the ground, but that's about it. I think that Sosa has the fight IQ required to keep this fight exactly where he wants it, which is on the feet. And from there, I think his technique is a little bit too clean, and I think his output is really going to give Lacerda some issues. So I'm picking Hecher Sosa to come out here and have a successful UFC debut. Next up in the bantamweight division, we got a matchup between Bia Mesquita. She's 6-0. Taking on Montserrat Rendon, who's 7-1. Currently, they got a Bia Mesquita -550. The comeback on Montserrat Rendon is +420. Montserrat, 2 years older at 36, 4 inches taller at 5'8", and has a ½ inch of reach at 68 inches of reach. So, interesting fight, because I love how they're building up Bia Mesquita. And she really impressed me in that debut. Obviously, I knew about her jiu-jitsu background. If y'all don't know, she beat Mackenzie Dern in pure jiu-jitsu. But I felt like her stand-up looked pretty decent on her regional footage and in that UFC debut, and now she's putting it all together. And then when you mix that in, that well-rounded style that's starting to develop with that high-level jiu-jitsu background, especially at a weight class like this, I mean, if they build you up the right way, which is exactly what they're doing, giving you Montserrat Rendon, the sky could be the limit for Bia Mesquita. Listen, with Rendon, you know, her last fight, she beat a heralded quote-unquote prospect. But if you actually watch that fight wasn't even about what Rendon did right. That fight was about what Elise Pereira did wrong. I mean, that was just a terrible showing by her opponent, who was 19 years old and literally felt those debut jitters and ran away the entire fight. Mesquita's not going to run away. Mesquita's not 19 years old, not to mention Mesquita's advantage on the ground here. This ain't Tamires Vidal anymore, where like we're watching the fight, we don't even know who won. Now, I scored it for Rendon, don't get me wrong, but I'm just saying, when you go life and death with Tamires Vidal, that just lets me know that you're not going to be in the UFC this time next year, no disrespect. So I think that Mesquita can actually test her stand-up here a little bit. Hey, go test your stand-up. Let's see what level it's on. But if you really want to come out here and look minus 550, whether it's a judo throw, whether it's a double leg, a single leg, a low single, an ankle pick, hey, you want a jump guard? I'm cool with that too. I think Bia Mesquita is going to come out here and dangle off the neck of Montserrat Rendon and get her second UFC win. Next up in the bantamweight division, we got a matchup between Elijah Smith, he's 9-1, taking on Su Young Young, who's 16-3. Currently, they got at Smith minus 190. The comeback on Yu is plus 165. Yu, 7 years older at 30, 3 inches shorter at 5'6", and has a 6-inch reach disadvantage at 65 inches of reach. So I'm going to just keep it a buck with y'all. I'm actually kind of surprised by these odds. I thought that Elijah Smith would be a bigger favorite here. I think that he should be, you know, maybe y'all disagree with me on this, and maybe this ages poorly, but I think Smith should be minus 300 here. So as a matter of fact, when I get a minus 190, that should be minus 300. I'm going to actually place a bet on it right now. I'm going to play Elijah Smith to win 1 unit, my friends. And here's why. Elijah Smith is a serious prospect. His athleticism mixed with that wrestling background and his developing striking, I like everything about this guy. And then you wonder, is he kind of a front runner or not? No. Look at that Vince Morales fight. There were some spots in that fight where a guy who's not as tough, a guy who is a front runner, would have absolutely tapped and found a way to lose. And the fact that Smith overcame those spots and went on to win that fight against, you know, a seriously grizzled vet. Like, I understand that Vince Morales loses most of the fights he's in, but I also understand the fact that Vince Morales has like twice the experience as Elijah Smith. And Elijah handled that fight very, very accordingly. And I love the requisite fight against Toshiomi Kazama. Just went out there and ran through him in a way where it's like, okay, that's what a top prospect does to someone on that level. And I think it's Su Young Yu. Listen, I think Su Young Yu, you don't judge a book by its cover. I think he's better than people think, and his technical skills aren't quite bad, and he can box a little bit. He can mix in takedowns. He can fight at a high pace. I like Su Young Yu. It's just that I think that you're dealing with a freak prospect in Elijah Smith versus a guy who's just kind of average. You know what I'm saying? And I like Su Young's name because I'm a huge fan of the movie Rush Hour. The girl that they rescued, her name was Su Young. So you know what I'm saying? Got to give a shout out to Rush Hour, one of my all-time favorite movies. But Su Young ain't getting rescued Saturday night. I think Su Young's getting knocked the you-know-what out Saturday night. I think every single time you see Elijah Smith, you're going to be seeing these incremental improvements fight to fight. And of course, just like any young prospect, he's not exempt from taking his first UFC setback. I just simply don't think it's going to be against Su Young Yu. I think that Elijah Smith has him covered everywhere. It's just a matter of, hey, you're 23 years old. Just don't be super arrogant and think that the fight's already won before it's happened. And, you know, just make one of these young rookie mistakes that these kids tend to make. But like, even if he comes in here arrogant, I think he walks through this guy. So there's going to come a time where Smith is going to have to pay those dues and get that first UFCL, but I don't think it's Saturday night. In fact, I think Saturday night he's going to shine and look like a much bigger favorite than minus 190 indicates. So I'm going to pick Elijah Smith to come out here and style on Su Young Yu. Next up in the strawweight division, we got a rematch between Piera Rodriguez, she's 11-2, taking on Sam Hughes, who's 11-6. Currently, they got it Piera Rodriguez minus 140. The comeback on Sam Hughes is plus 120. So Piera is 33. Sam is also 33. Sam 2 inches taller at 5'5" and has a 1-inch reach advantage of 64.5 inches of reach. So it's a rematch. The first time they went down, I kind of felt like it wasn't a blowout, but Piera Rodriguez just outclassed Sam Hughes everywhere. She landed more volume than her, which is, you got to take note of, because Sam Hughes is kind of known for overwhelming young prospects with volume. And then Rodriguez also landed 5 takedowns on top of that. So what have they done since then? I feel like Piera Rodriguez has consistently been evolving. Now, she had a dumb setback, against Carnelosi. Y'all remember that fight where she got DQ'd, but she was dominating that fight. And that's the kind of mistake, you make that mistake, hey, go fix that in the gym. Never let that happen again. And she hasn't let that happen again. And I feel like Hughes is kind of a prospect tester. If you're not quite on the level of a Sam Hughes, she'll take that ass whooping up front, and then she will put it on you in the second and third rounds. Like, you have to have your seasoning on point and your dues paid to compete with someone like Sam Hughes. But not only has Rodriguez paid the requisite dues, she's beat Hughes before. And it's not like she just caught her in some fluke situation early in the first round. She outclassed her over 3 rounds. And I think she can do a similar thing Saturday night. Listen, Sam Hughes is ultra tough. I think she's going to hang in there. And, there's no quitting Sam Hughes. I got a lot of respect for her. But this is not a young prospect who isn't seasoned, who's green, who's trying to figure out what the UFC is really like. Then, in those situations, you take Sam Hughes. Piera Rodriguez knows what the Sam Hughes fight is like, knows what the Sam Hughes test is like, knows what the Sam Hughes pace is like. And Piera Rodriguez is simply better, more physical, more athletic, can match the output, can mix in takedowns of her own, can surpass the output, not just match it, my friends. I think Piera Rodriguez is going to come out here and win another unanimous decision against Sam Hughes. So now we got to talk about the fight to watch and the fighter to watch. So what is the fight to watch for UFC Vegas 114? My friends, the fight to watch is Bolaji versus Manoel Sosa. On one hand, you got a debutant in Sosa who's coming to the UFC. He's already paid tons of dues. He's taken setbacks. He knocked out Mauricio Hufi, beat a serious prospect on Contender Series. And on the other side with Bolaji, he might not win every fight, but boy, does he fight every single fight. He's explosive. He's dynamic. He's a heavy hitter. And he's still relatively young, so he's probably going to be making improvements every single fight, and he's got to be hungry coming off those setbacks. So I feel like there's a lot on the line in this matchup. And for that reason, Oki versus Sosa is my fight to watch. So now the question is, who is my fighter to watch? My friends, I think y'all know who my fighter to watch. My fighter to watch is Bruno Bulldog Silva. Kid, you have the opportunity to come out here and really put your name on the map. You're going up against the guy in Charles Johnson, who's not only on concussion protocol because he got knocked the you-know-what out less than 2 months ago, but the guy's got a name because he beat the champion, fluke or not. He beat Lone Kavanaugh, fluke or not. And they tried to give him Alex Perez, and reality kicked in. Now you get the chance to come out here and build some momentum off of Charles Johnson. Get that name on your resume. Crack his chin real early, like tons of guys have been doing. But usually Charles can overcome that. No longer was he able to overcome that in his last fight. And with Bruno, if he can be opportunistic, be aggressive, let those hands go in the early going, I think he's got the recipe to come out here and get a devastating highlight reel knockout against Charles Johnson and elevate his name that much further. So for that reason, Bruno Bulldog Silva is my fighter to watch. Well, my friends, we did it. It's going down this Saturday night at the Apex. Hey, do me a huge favor. Smash the subscribe button, hit the like button, leave me a comment. Once we hit 15K subscribers, one of y'all's getting a UFC 322 poster signed by the entire card. Once we hit 25K subscribers, one of y'all's getting a free signed UFC glove by UFC Hall of Famer Michael Bisping. And once we hit 50K subscribers, I'm taking one of y'all out to a Brazilian steak dinner in Atlanta, Georgia on me. So hook me up and I'll hook y'all up. Thank y'all so much for the support. Shout out the GOAT, Meticulous, and of course to the fans. Thank y'all so much. I'll see y'all Wednesday night for the roundtable. Let me know in the comments who y'all want my 2 guests to be. And until the next time, let's cash these bets.